without further ado, our first presenter is Mark Stepp with Realvolve.
Chad, thank you. Am I on? All right. Thank you, Chad, Sterling, Deb, for having such a great venue for us to be able to share with each other, and thank everybody for being here. What I have to cover really are two things, the why and the what. Why do I do what I do? Well, for the past 20 plus years, I've developed software for real estate agents, lenders, title reps. During that time, I was able to meet up with a lot of really good people. A couple that I met up with, Sherman and Peggy Mitchell, are here in Springfield. Peggy is a real estate agent with Coldwell Banker. She's tops in her Midwest region. She shared a story with me early in my career, and it really touched me, and I want to share that with you. See, like most real estate agents, how many are real estate agents? Anybody? A few. Most real estate agents have long days, early mornings, late nights, long weeks, longer weekends, doing one thing, helping families deal with buying and selling a home. And during that time, they spend a lot of time away from their home, from their family. My why has been helping realtors add more time to their family because of this story. See, during the time that she was away, she came home one night expecting to see Amber in bed, went in to kiss her goodnight, her daughter. She went in to the bedroom, and Amber wasn't there. She went into the living room, dining room, kitchen. Amber wasn't there. Went running down to the family room. Amber wasn't there. Finally, she went into her own bedroom, and there she found Amber in the closet. She quickly scooped her up, found that she was just asleep. She said, "Amber, why are you in my closet? You scared me to death." She looked up at Peggy and said, "I'm sorry, Mommy. I didn't mean to scare you. I was missing you, and I came in to smell the perfume on your clothes." And we had just had our first child, who's in this room now. But that hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit hard. And it was like, how can I help people, help realtors, help other people spend more time with their family? So for the past 20 years, that's what I did. Developed software to make people more effective, more efficient, being able to do the things that they need to do quicker so they can get home to their families. Most of the software that I developed was built starting in DOS, for those that are technical, all the way through Windows. And the package that we have had in the past really was geared for Windows. It did a lot of really good stuff. A small thing hit called the internet and kind of made the application not as useful. About 18 months ago, I was on Facebook with a friend, and he had started describing what he was doing. He was creating software for real estate agents on the web. And I said, well, I'm very interested in hearing that. Tell me about it. So he shared with me what they had started, and what they had done was brilliant. It was really good. But it didn't have the depth that most real estate agents needed in order to make their days be more productive. So that's where we kind of brought in all my expertise for the past 20 years and started redesigning, redeveloping Realvolve. So that's really the second part. What is Realvolve? Well, Realvolve is a CRM. Everybody needs that, but it's not just a CRM. It has listing and contract management, but it's not just that. It has calendaring, social messaging, emailing, template editor, all the things that real estate agents need to have in their arsenal of things to work with. But at the heart of it all is what we call workflow. Workflow is really what brings it all together. It automates all the different parts and pieces, allowing you to work more effectively, more efficiently, quicker, taking up less time, and even giving you time to be with your friends and family. So that you can also build those relationships with your customers so that the next time they go to buy or sell a home, they'll remember you. You've got to build the relationships with your customers in order for them to come back to you. So, the best way to explain a workflow is similar to an action plan. A lot of software packages have action plans. An action plan is a linear progression of things that need to be done from point A to point G. All the different things that need to be done through the process, from the time somebody signs a contract all the way to closing day. There's hundreds of different things that have to happen. And the real estate agents handle those. The problem with an action plan is it's very linear. Now, how many of you have ever bought or sold a home? Yeah. Did everything go smoothly? No. And see, that's where an action plan has problems. It can't handle reality. The reality is there's things that happen that crop up that are unknown to buyers and sellers. In most cases, they are known by the real estate agent, but they have to handle them different ways. A workflow can handle an action plan. It can go through that linear progression. That's easy. But where a workflow really flows is starting at the beginning and going to point B might be a loan approval. Now, if it was linear, we could go through and say, yeah, it's got good credit, we can go on. But maybe they've got bad credit. What do we do? The workflow can guide you through the process of dealing with the things that are part of that challenge. So we go to C2, and we find that there is bad credit. Can we do any kind of credit cleanup? Well, it may just be really bad credit. There's nothing we can do, not a chance. Absolutely nothing to do. It's a dead deal. And that happens. It might be that the buyers just need some credit counseling and just bump up their credit just a little bit. It could be inaccurate reporting for their FICO. Transcon or Equifax reported something incorrectly and it's just wrong. So, they can go on very quickly, go on to loan approval, and then to closing day. You get from A to G just like you did with the action plan, but you took an alternate path, a different way of going. We call them alternate realities. Now, for those Back to the Future fans talking about alternate realities, I like to put it this way. Workflows do for action plans what the flux capacitor did for the DeLorean. It handles alternate realities. You see, at one point through that movie, Doc and Marty go into the future. The time machine gets stolen, goes back. Some changes happen. Something happened in the past that changed reality for them. And that's what a workflow can do. It can handle those alternate realities. Right now, we've got some traction. We started a soft launch in August of 2014 for Realvolve. We've got almost 300 users in the US and Canada. Most of those are high-producing agents, real estate agents, that are very socially active and well-known. And they're actually making us go faster than we're somewhat capable. We have been asked to speak at several industry meetings, Inman Select, which Dave, my partner, is speaking there next week, where all the top real estate agents are gathering in New York in order to speak. We've also been asked to speak to several national companies as well. The software itself, very simple to look at, easy to look at. We try to keep it simple, clean. Calendaring is in there. All the things that real estate agents need. There's wizards to take you through the creation of workflows. It all goes together. Integration with Better Voice, which is a voicemail system. Evernote, Google Apps, listing pages. Clarity Store and Zapier. Zapier, if you guys aren't familiar with Zapier, they help integrate literally 200 to 300 other online applications to be able to integrate with each other. So if somebody has a lead generation website, they fill in information, it can go to Zapier, automatically fill it into our database, and then automatically fill it into MailChimp or go into the accounting. There's all kinds of integration that can be done, and that's huge for saving time so that you can do the things that you need to with your family. So what we're dealing with right now is the real estate piece of the puzzle. See, Realvolve is a software application, but it's more of a platform for lending, for title, for escrow. We bring them all together. At the center of that, again, is the workflow, and it brings those workflow items for each of those pieces together so that they can function more effectively with each other as well. And then we add on the client access so that everybody that's in the transaction can get information, even the client, from the different aspects of it. And that's it. I mean, that's my why and my what.
Raise your hand and we'll bring you the microphone for questions. I think to kick it off, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your background. What did you spend your career doing before you decided to walk into Realvolve?
Well, I worked originally in the insurance industry with a startup in Bolivar. I am from Bolivar. We spent a lot of time doing a lot of the beginning pieces for real estate, or for insurance agencies. Grew that into, I think there was 150 some odd employees whenever I left there. Started the real estate industry. I knew I wanted to be on my own and do the things that I wanted to do, have the time that I wanted to have, and not be having to clock in and out like a lot of people did. Little did I know I was clocking in and out all the time, but as an entrepreneur, we have that tendency.
Hey, Mark, you said earlier about the groups that you've already got online with you now. They're pushing you a little bit farther and a little bit faster than you expected. Give me some ideas of what you're talking about there and what you've got planned to take care of those.
Well, we have a great team. We've got a team of 8 developers right now, and they're knowing what I know for the past 20 years, there's a lot of things on our scope of things that we've got to complete. And we really did a soft launch because it's very usable the way it is, extremely usable. But there are things that are on my docket of things that I know that we still need to add. And as we get more people out there, they're saying, well, we need this. It's like, well, yeah, I know we need this, and we're getting there. So as we're bringing people on, we make them aware, we're still in development. We're still doing the things that we need to do to get you there. So that's really, they're pushing us because they need the functionality, and it's certainly coming. It's just a matter of needing a larger team to deal with that.
This is an exciting piece of software as a service, so congratulations. It's an exciting, growing field. There's a lot of different thoughts about price points for software as a service. Are you guys thinking about having a freemium model and then onboarding and upselling people that way, or are you thinking about coming in at a lower price or a higher price and adding features somewhere in there?
Right now we don't currently offer a demo. We're wanting, and we will, but we're not wanting to deal with the demo users yet. Once we get through everything that we want to, we will be raising the price probably a little bit. Right now it's at $37 for a 3-user system, which we feel is very comparable to anybody else that's out there, if not even cheap. There's a $67 and then $97, and it depends really on the number of users that you're dealing with and the amount of space that you need within the system.
Mark, I can hear the audience whispering that's way too cheap.
It is.
As compared, take it away. As compared to people that are in your industry, why did you choose to be so affordable?
The challenge is the real estate agent, the industry itself. They are nickeled and dimed left and right for all kinds of different things, and they actually don't like paying a whole lot, quite honestly. The people that see the value, that see what it actually does, thinks that it is way too cheap, and it is. We'll be raising the price. It's just a matter we want to get some additional traction once we actually do launch. We're going to get in there, get them at that price, and then any future go at a higher price.
Hi there. You mentioned you started, I think, in the insurance business. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
My question was, why the real estate business? There are a lot of transactional businesses out there that might benefit. Is there any particular thing that, aside from the story you told, that directed you towards that?
Yeah, it was a little document called non-compete.
I know all about those.
At the time that I started, the digital cameras, I had a little Zap Shot camera. They were hot, brand new on the market. It was the first digital camera on the market. And I thought, gee, what industry could use a camera? Real estate. They take pictures all the time. And I couldn't do anything with the insurance industry because of commitments that I had been doing at that time. I'd spent 10 years developing with the other startup and just really didn't want that space at the time.
I just searched your company on the internet while you were talking, and you got a couple of very good reviews, very positive. How did you reach out to writers and bloggers and start getting that press?
They just give it to us. There are a lot of very vocal users right now. Like I said, high-producing users that see the value and see what it's doing, see what it can do, and they're impressed. The market itself, there are a ton of CRM packages out there for real estate agents. There's 40 that I know of that are relatively good. One of the industry leaders for the CRM, we call him the CRM guru, Gary David Hall, who is on the internet. If you look him up, he sells all the different packages. He's a reseller for all of them. I spent about an hour, actually 2 hours with him going through the software, showing him the ins and outs of what all it does. And he goes, Mark, you just took what was the best transaction management software that I had seen, my old product, and you've made it 10 times better. And coming from him, I like that. That shows that we're headed in the right direction. We still got a lot to go.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your staffing? Does everybody work remote? Do you have an office? What do you see the future looking like as far as staff?
We are really remote at this point. Dave Crumby, who is our CEO, lives in Colorado. And Martin Stryker, who is in North Carolina, was lead development, huge background. Dave was a real estate agent, a broker for Assist to Sell at one point. He knew that the market needed help. He teamed up with Martin Stryker, who has done all kinds of Rails development, all kinds of software development, was an editor for a Linux magazine, all kinds of great credentials himself. They teamed together and started the original concept just on a piece of napkin paper. Once they had the skeleton built, that was when I kind of came in and it's like, wow, you've done great. You've got a good product, but it needs more depth. It needs to be functionally better for the agents to be able to do what they need to do. It's just a CRM right now. There's lots of those out there. We've got to make it different. We've got to make it better, and that's where that comes. Then we've got a team of additional developers that help build all that together.
And I have a question dealing with technology. I'm a technologist at heart, and so you're using the decision tree methods to create a workflow. And there are a lot of commercial products. First question, are you using a commercial product for implementing your decision trees? And number two, one of the things I did in research is look at ontological methods, and it's another way of looking on how to represent your decision trees and could create some efficiencies. There's not a lot of commercial tools, but it may allow you to rethink on how you would build your relationships and give a statistical representation to the decisions that you're going to make in your business model.
Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of the transactional pieces, there's not a whole lot of decision that has to be made. I mean, it's there are certain things that have to be done, and based off of the condition, we will have to go one way or the other. We've created everything from scratch. Because of, one of the things I found interesting is developing within C++ and Visual Basic, Windows type development originally, there was all kinds of tools and parts and pieces that you could pull together and create things, but it all looked the same. What our team does, which is really cool, especially within the Rails development, is we can create new parts and pieces from whatever I tell them I want. It's like, this is the neat thing about being an entrepreneur and the position that I'm in right now. I can say, I want it to look like this. I want it to do certain things like this. And then magically it gets done. But the decision trees and all that kind of stuff, that's all stuff that we've come up with and developed our own. But in most cases, most of the things that happen as far as decisions go are things that the real estate agent has to deal with one way or the other. It's not all automated, but some of it is.
Mark, I know Peggy Mitchell, and when you told that story, I know that's true. She told me that story when I started in my business because it's difficult. But the question I have is a lot of agents, what do you do with the older agents that still use paper and still want to write everything down? How do you convince them to make some changes to be more effective? Because it's hard to change.
It's hard. One of the things that we're really pushing here is we're trying to push the technology to be paperless. I mean, right now you can use DocuSign for signatures. All the paperwork stuff can be done paperless. The technology's there. And it's just a matter of grabbing hold of that technology and deciding that you're going to use it or not. Now, you can choose to continue to do it paper, but then you're sacrificing that family time is really what it comes down to. And you've got to think about how can I spend more time doing the things I need to do to get things done quickly and efficiently so I can be home with my family versus doing it the old-fashioned way.
Hi. Can you tell me how, or tell us how you plan on taking this to the market and what your sales force, you foresee it looking like? Do you plan on using the internet for sales? Are the developers like yourself going to be the ones presenting and trying to sell this?
One of the things Dave has done, let me go to the next book here, next slide. Dave has written a book, and for those real estate agents that haven't read this book, I highly, highly encourage it. It is an industry bestseller. He released it in November of 2013. It really goes beyond the how-tos of real estate, and it explains the why. In that book, he's got several of the industry leaders from Zillow, Trulia, Better Homes and Gardens, the big leaders. And he's got a lot of connections to industry leaders that will help us kind of get the word out. That's one thing. We've got a lot of very, very socially active real estate agents that tweet and message a lot, and that's really why we're at the numbers that we're getting right now. Is we're bringing on the numbers quickly, but we've still got a lot to go. You can go to realforward.com, or it's also on Amazon and order it from there. If you want to send me an email, I can send you a free PDF copy.
Mark, we've still got just a couple minutes left, but I'll give you the question that we wrap up every presentation with so that you can have plenty of time to elaborate on that. How can we, as a community, help you with what you need?
What do I need? Well, we do have a business plan. We are needing to make sure that it looks good, make sure that it's appropriate so that we can then turn around and search for investors. We've got some people we're currently working with to do that, but we're looking for more investment because there's so much to do and so few resources right now. Realistically, we need to have a lot more in that realm. We will be looking for office space as well very soon. I'm actually from Bolivar. I would like to have Bolivar office, but Springfield is such a big mecca for, especially for the colleges and resources that are here, it really makes more sense to bring it here. We're looking for Rails developers, Rails savvy, HTML and CSS designers, marketing experts. We'll be hiring some technical support people, Ruby on Rails developers, and also going to mobile. We know we've got to have mobile. The app itself is, it sizes itself, it's reactive down to iPads, fine, but whenever you get down to a phone, it's really small. So we really need a mobile app, and we know we need it. It's just a matter of time before that gets designed and developed. But this is kind of our hit list of things that we'll be looking for.
Mark, just to ask you to elaborate on one thing. Everything on your list is pretty straightforward, and I think there's a lot of people in the audience who would raise their hand to fulfill those needs for you. But regarding an investor, what does that person look like? What do they come with other than money? Is it industry experience? And if so, in what industry do you need help?
We're working with, right now, an individual here in Springfield that we hope will fulfill the need. But we're really looking for somebody that wants to help, that has the heart to help. And if they've taken a company from infancy to being purchased, or sold or whatever, that would be, because we've not been through a huge line like that. And knowing all the ins and outs, somebody that can guide us through that would be a huge help.
That's excellent. You do a great job.
Okay. I have one more statement, and that's with a close here. Just think about this. Do you want to stop and smell the roses? Or do you want your family to have to go into the closet to smell the scent, the perfume? I encourage you all to stop and smell the roses, because not only does it smell good, it also looks better.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Great presentation. Hey, some quick announcements. Startup Weekend is this coming weekend. If you have any questions about that, you can Google that or see Chad, because he's the guy running that. Also, the Real Estate Investors Meeting is February the 19th, and Sean is in the room. I saw him right there if you have any questions on that. And also the AITP meeting. Randy's right here. So that is this evening, right, at Glass Hall? 5 to 7 p.m. So also, we've got James Jeffries in the house, and James is an attorney. Raise your hand again. With Lathrop Gage, and the organizers and I have talked about this, and James is going to be available to answer some basic legal questions for people in the audience, entrepreneurs, etc. We haven't fleshed out how that's going to look, but I did want to put that out to the audience. And Lathrop Gage has been a sponsor of ours for a while, and Frank Evans is also here with that firm. So thank you guys for that. We've got something a little different next. Our next speaker is Bob Gourley, and Bob is a MSU alum. He's a football player, I believe, and he's a veteran. He's from Mountain Grove, Missouri, which is not too far from where I'm from, so that's a good thing. But Bob has been a serial entrepreneur all of his business life, and he's been in everything from meat packing to banking, and I think he's an investor now as well. He has written a book, Make Money for Bob, which I love that title. The bottom line on entrepreneurship, and so he's got a wealth of experience that I think everyone's going to really enjoy hearing about. So, Bob, thank you.
Okay, I'm the old entrepreneur, in case you haven't figured that out. And this is going to be a challenge for me, because keeping up with the format, I have about 8 minutes to tell you of about 30 years of entrepreneurship and a dozen different companies that we've started, sold, bought, so forth. And then how that relates to a book that I wrote. And I hope somebody asks me about that title, because there's a story behind that title. And so I've been thinking about how can I do this and be proficient, and I thought the best way I could do it is to relate to my wife. Incidentally, this beautiful lady here is my wife. And me tell you, if I didn't have her as a partner, I wouldn't be up here talking to you about the success I've had. That's a fact. But she describes it when somebody would say, well, what did your husband do? Now, see if I get this right. She said, well, he started in computers, then he went to pigs, then he went to beer, cameras, banks, and ended up with gas. So let me see if I can follow that very quickly. After I graduated from college with a fine education from a fine institution here at Missouri State, and spending some time with the United States Army, I started my career in Kansas City working for a major business machines company. And I ran into, after about 8 or 9 years, I ran into the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs do have with corporate culture. My sales were such as a totally independent sales agent. My commissions were more than what a lot of the vice presidents were making. So they killed my contract, and I left that day after 9 years. Now that was pretty stupid. I had 2 kids and a big mortgage to deal with. Spent about a year with a startup company that never got started up. And then some buddies of mine, it was in the service bureau business. You probably don't know about that. I'm going to talk about a lot of things that probably won't relate to you, but they did to me at that time. Anyway, some buddies of mine wanted to start a company as a meat broker representing a company called R.B. Rice Sausage Company in Kansas City. May have heard of that, maybe not. They had just been purchased by a company called Holiday Inns. Maybe you've heard of them. And they wanted to expand the capacity of that plant a lot. Well, my buddies and I decided we would take them in the private label business, which we did, and did so successfully. And we even brought a guy on to build our own label, and we signed a contract with an entertainer named Andy Griffith. You may have heard of him also, to promote Andy Griffith's Country Breakfast. Well, about the time we did that, corporate culture caught us again, and they said, you guys are getting too much control of the manufacturing side of our business, so you shut down your brokerage company and you all have sales jobs with us. Well, my partners left. I didn't. I was stupid. I stayed. 2 kids, mortgage, same thing. But during the process of building that company back up, and we were struggling but doing all right, there was an article in the Kansas City Star about a little brewery out in Colorado that was going to come to Missouri. It was Coors Brewing Company. So I, along with 600 other applicants, decided we'd like to have that distributorship in Kansas City. We applied for that distributorship. It was a mammoth program to try to get through. But in the end, it wasn't who you knew, it was who had the best business plan. And we were awarded a Coors distributorship. I think, is Jim Ferguson, anybody know him? He was the Coors distributor. Is he still the Coors? Still part of America, and so I know a little bit. We'll talk after. Yeah, good guy. We've got some commonality. Okay, good guy. Anyway, I had the Coors distributorship. You had to be a mumbling vegetable not to do well with that thing for the first couple of years because, frankly, you could sell more than you can get because there were trucks stopping here and picking up beer and taking it back east. After about 4 years, though, I had a fellow that kept pursuing me that wanted to buy that distributorship. And I told my wife, I want to teach him a lesson. He taught me a lesson, incidentally, because I said, I'm going to lay a number on him that'll just wipe him off and we'll get rid of it. I gave him that number. He only said this, done. Never give the price first. That's never give the price first. Well, I found myself about 3 weeks later sitting at home trying to tell Marlise how to load the dishwasher. That didn't last very long. So I got into investigating other companies and networking to decide what kind of business I should get back into. And believe it or not, the business I ended up buying was a business right here in Springfield called Lawrence Photographic. You've heard of that? I think they still have the store here, as a matter of fact. A good friend of mine, Carol McKinney, convinced me that I could buy that business because it was a fine old 100-year-old business, first Kodak dealer west of the Mississippi. And anyway, though, we had new ownership, and the ownership was kind of bleeding the company off, so he decided we could refurbish this company, take it back to its roots, and do well. We did that, and I ended up being approached by a British company. I'll never forget the guy called me one day, very British, Ashley Roundtree, and said, Mr. Gourley, we're keenly interested in buying your business. I said, it isn't for sale. He said, of course it isn't. That's why we want to buy it. So I thought maybe I ought to talk to him about this. So that was the best experience I've had in business. I learned more in selling that business to the British. And we were one of 65 companies they owned worldwide, but they were giving us the opportunity to grow that business in this community. We went from a $50 million company to a $250 million company, from four locations to 23. And then we decided that, well, let me tell the other part of the story. They only owned us for about a year, and then they were taken over on a hostile takeover. And because of the hostile takeover, we were the last of those 65 companies that they wanted to get rid of. They're not nice people, hostile takeover people are. They asked me finally to make them an offer on the company, and I did, and they said it was embarrassing and woefully inadequate. So I made them a more embarrassing offer as time went on, and after 3 embarrassing offers, we were able to get the business back at a very keen price, and were able to grow it. We grew it substantially from that point on, and ended up selling it to Fujifilm in 2001. And the reason we sold it to Fujifilm is because we went to them to borrow money to buy a national company. Yeah, go faster. Anyway, she's hurried me up. Oh, 211, okay. So as a result of that, they came back to us and said, we really like your plan to loan you the money to buy this company, and we're going to adopt that plan, but we're going to buy you too. Because they realized if they had not done that, we would have controlled about 70% of their market in the United States. So that was the last sale. Let's see now, I got through, in banking. During that period also, I started, a friend of mine and I started a bank on the plaza called First Business Bank in Kansas City. Sold that to Gold Bank, and I became chairman of Gold Bank one day, as a matter of fact. And we sold that to another bank, and it sold to another bank, which is now in Canada somewhere, Bank of Canada. What did I miss? Oh, gas. How I got gas. I was contacted by a fellow who owned one of the private water companies in Branson, and he had an idea to bring gas to Branson because they were still working on propane down there. So we got involved in that, put the program together, went through all the disciplines to get it done, got the gas lines ready to go, and did the most intelligent thing we could do. We sold it to somebody who knew what they were doing. And that sort of ended the career. And then I wrote this book, Make Money for Bob. And I didn't start out to write a book. I really started out just to write something for my heirs, because they tell you that if you don't tell people how hard you worked and what you did to get your estate, by the 3rd generation it's gone. I took that book, about a 400-page book, to a publisher, and they said, that's not a very good book. But they said, in that book, you really have an excellent book. If you cut that down to about 250 pages, they gave me some guidelines, and we published this book. This book is about the skills that I believe that I've experienced that you need to learn to be involved with to be a good serial entrepreneur. And I'm going to go through just a few of these very quickly, and then, how am I doing on time? Okay, all right. I tried to decide a little bit of just what are these issues that you need. And you don't need to have all of these skills yourself. You need to recognize what these skills are and then be able to get people who have those skills to be your partners. And that's what I did. I thought I was pretty good in accounting and finance, but I had a chief financial officer that made me look brilliant. And so that's what I'm talking about. I broke it down into what I called the feeling side, for example. The feeling side, this is kind of the things you can't put your arms around, that's a skill you need. How about vision? You know, is vision something that's a gift, or can you learn vision? My wife says it's a gift. I say you can learn some things in it. She's always right. How about leadership? Where do you learn leadership? How about perseverance? If If you don't have these things, you're not going to be equipped to be a good entrepreneur. How about just hard work? Then I got to the technical side. In the technical side, I talked about research. Research, research, research. You know how we got to be a Coors distributor? I'll tell you this very quickly. I went to Jeff City and got a list of every place that had a license to buy beer. We called on almost every one of them. And as a result of that, we built a plan around actually when the deliveries would be made, how many trucks we'd need, how much space we needed. So when we went to Coors, we said, here's our plan, and they said, that'll work. So do the research. Know the numbers. I had a business accounting professor at Missouri State who told me one time, accounting might be boring, but it can be very exciting. When you start looking at, he said, I can look at a financial statement and tell you whether the person running that business came from a sales background, an accounting background, an engineering background, and he was right. I couldn't wait to get a financial statement and look at it from a lot of these companies. We talked about manners count. I even got into manners matter. I've seen people really blow some good deals, particularly in dealing with foreign companies like in Japan. Negotiating the deal, how to negotiate a deal and always have a good confederate on your side. Choose your partners well and when to choose them. And then talked about dealing with the pros and getting a good mentor in place for you. That's the book. I'm open for questions.
Bravo.
So Bob, where'd you come up with the title for that book?
Hey! I'm not too kind to corporate cultures, I got to tell you that. And I got so tired of going to these meetings when I was in the photo business with these major manufacturers, and they'd spend a half a day, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, talking about their mission, vision, and values. Now you need that. You need to start with that in business. But they'd spend a half a day of our time talking about it, and they had to read an 8-page script on it. So one night we were meeting with a company. I don't want to tell you who it was. They had 3 M's in their name, and they were from Minnesota somewhere. And I met with them the night before and said, whatever you do, don't do that. Our people just want to know one thing. How can we make money with your products? They came back the next day and did the same thing. So I was ready for them. So the next day when they came in, all of our managers stood up, and I said, I'm going to show you our mission statement. And they all stood up, and they had turned over their lapels, and they had a button that said, make money for Bob. And I had one that flashed that said, I'm Bob. As a result, I will tell you, though, that spread throughout our industry, and we would go to shows and so forth, national shows, and everybody said, hey, Bob, you making any money? So our people started wearing those buttons. Now, here's the part I'm proud of. When we sold our business to Fuji, they all got in the pay line with me.
All right, right here. As a young entrepreneur that would hopefully grow up to be like you, because you're awesome, like really awesome, if you had one piece of advice to give me, what would that be, starting out young to follow in your path?
Marry a good woman. I'm getting a lot of points here today. I think you need to decide what your strength is. And you really need to decide what your strength isn't. And you need to engage with people that you can put those 2 or 3 things together. I had good partnerships, I had bad partnerships. And when I had good partnerships, we sat down before we ever launched the business and really said, who's going to be the sales guy? Who's going to be the accounting guy? What's your responsibility? You see, most guys have a couple of pitchers of beer and their buddies, and that's how the business starts. And when you have problems with business, it's not when it fails, it's when it succeeds, because everybody wants their share a little differently. And I think the main thing is to really decide what your strengths are, okay, and what your interests are, and try to develop along those lines, and focus. Don't just take a broad street. Look for a need and fulfill it.
Hi, Bob.
Hey.
you kind of answered this already in the last question, but I was going to ask how you choose your business partners and the people you choose to do business with.
Well, I made a lot of mistakes too. I've had partners that it didn't work out well. The first thing you should do though is when you first start that partnership, you should get it documented. You should have an exit plan. And if you have that exit plan to start with, it makes things go very smooth. I don't care if it's what they call a put up and shut up plan, where if I offer you to buy you out, you can offer to buy me out, you know. But you need to have that in place. Then you need to develop networks within the industry or the product line or the service you're providing, and work those networks very strongly. Build networks. And have a place like this to integrate with entrepreneurs who have been there. Get a good mentor.
Well, I really appreciate how you integrate family. Like, that's a major theme into your whole narrative. And maybe this is a question for your wife, but how do you, as an entrepreneur, how do you integrate the two, being what you call a serial entrepreneur, because everywhere you go, your family goes? Like, how do you balance that? What were some challenges with that, and what are some things that maybe you had to give up or your family had to give up for you to do all the things that you had to do?
Now, there's a good question. She can't wait for me to answer it, too, I can tell you. My family sacrificed. And if I could do it over again, there's a lot of things I would not do, because I was totally engaged in the business, and I didn't do that right. But one thing my wife and I did do when I said she was a good partner, we had a 2-hour coffee meeting every Saturday morning, regardless when I got home, when I was home. And she's great. She'd always ask me two things. You know, guys always want to pump themselves up about how big and how well they've done. And she'd always say, are you telling me the way it really is? Okay. That would make me think. And are you being fair to everybody? But I kept her informed of my businesses, didn't I? In detail. And she, let me tell you, she had some talent I didn't have too. She was one of the better people I knew at judging people. I'm always too excited about people, and I remember, can I tell a quick story here? I remember one time I had this guy that I was going to hire to manage a branch for me in Kansas City. I put him through all the protocols, sent him to a couple other branches to work. He was perfect. And the last thing we always did was take he and his wife to dinner. We came home that night. I said, what do you think, Marlise? She said, don't hire him. He won't last. I said, you're crazy. I hired him. A month later, I fired him. She noticed things I didn't know. For example, how he treated his wife. That he always answered for her. He didn't let her express herself and things. And she was right. So she was an asset to me in that regard, judging people.
In keeping with the family theme, did your legacy for entrepreneurship continue with your kids?
Did what now?
Did your children pursue entrepreneurial activities?
I left. Oh, no, sorry. I left my hearing aids in the car, incidentally. So, I don't think so. Not really. No. Though they have some entrepreneurial spirits among them. Our son is a veterinarian, and his wife is a veterinarian down at Mountain Grove, Missouri, and he raises cattle, and he's on a bank board, and he's a pretty good entrepreneur. He came to me one time and said, I want to build a large animal surgery center for equine, and I want your opinion. I said, don't do it. He did it. I was wrong. He was right. And our daughter is in real estate. She could use your product.
You covered a lot of ground from industry to industry. Now, each time you tackled something that was completely different, did you find an element of fear in that, or how did you handle those transitions so smoothly?
Well, I was always kind of excited about it. It was exciting to get into a new industry and break new ground and meet new people, you know. And when you were new coming in, you could always buffalo a lot, maybe. You know, they thought you were better than you were. No, I don't know if that's true. But I found it exciting. I was always interested in getting into new business. And,
Bob, I've seen a lot of people that are really successful in one field, and then they
go into something they're not necessarily into and they fail. I've seen that a lot. Why could you jump from industry to industry and succeed? What's the difference?
The quality of the people that I brought, that were either there that I brought with me, and the value that I placed on those people, and the reward that those people got for that value, is what I would say. I wouldn't go into an industry that I didn't. I talked about Lawrence Photographic in this town. A fellow named Carroll McKinney was excellent in what he did. And if I hadn't had Carroll McKinney, I wouldn't have bought the company. So most of that was the quality of people.
I have a follow-up question to the past two questions you've been asked. With all your businesses, after you've identified your strengths, your weaknesses, your interests, and things of that nature, how did you get out and actually see the people to grow your business and to prospect your business?
I traveled a lot, didn't I? A lot. Of course, I will tell you the beer business was probably the most fun business I was in, because I could call my wife and say, I can't come home tonight, I got to make bars. And got to judge what t-shirt contest or something. I think that's about it, really.
One of your key points that you said earlier was research. How did you, what were your research resources?
Research?
People or documents, is there certain places or people you'd go to immediately, or?
Mm-hmm. Well, a little of all of that. This was before the internet, you understand, so you didn't have instant access to that. But generally, a business would come to me because of a networking. Somebody was in the business, somebody knew about me, or I knew about them. And as a result, once you build up these networks, these businesses will start being passed by you, believe it or not. And then I judged it on really the quality of the people, I said. And then what I really would try to do is to get financial statements. First thing I wanted to look at before I ever met anybody was their financial statements, because you really could tell a lot from those statements about what you could do to improve that business, merge it with yours, and so forth.
So you've been in a lot of different industries, and so if you were going to start a new business today, if you were going to start looking out an area to go get the next thing, what area would you look at first?
Well, the internet is where everything is happening today, you know, and it's a lot easier to get in business if you're just talking about developing an app. I'm not saying it's simple, but with less involvement and so forth, I'd really look at something related probably to the internet or an internet type service, or I'd look at something in terms of the medical field, which I think is changing dramatically and needs a lot of help. Those are the kind of fields I'd look at, something where technology is really taking off over.
Oh, tell me a little bit more about the book and this kind of exercise in reflection that you went through to write that book. How did it change your perspective on all of your past experiences and installing that into the younger generation?
Well, the book is a lot of hard work in some of it. And I've been working on a second book now for longer than I wanted to. And it's entitled How to Get the Money, incidentally. Because I sat on an angel investment group, a couple of them now, and I see people come in with great concepts. And Shark Tank is good television, but that's about where it ends. But they didn't know how to interface with an investment entrepreneur. See, everybody thinks there's just one class of entrepreneurs. You can be the inventor, creator entrepreneur, you can be a marketing entrepreneur, you can be a management entrepreneur, or you can be an investment entrepreneur. And investment entrepreneurs are different people. You know, if I were going to go before a group, I'd want to know who that group is. I'd want to study who I'm talking to. I'd want to know their background, because most entrepreneurs want to know, ones I know is, if I put money into your company, how soon can I get my money back? And then I'd like a little piece of the action to ride along with you. But I'm not talking to anybody here, but I would sit on these investment groups and they would say, oh, we need a couple million pre-money dollars. to launch this product or service, and good products and services, and you'd say, well, what do I get for, well, you're going to get 10%. Well, I'm going to put all the money in, and I'm going to get 10%, you know. It works just the opposite. If you don't perform, I get control of the company. So it's a different thing. So
Bob, we got a couple minutes here to let you close. First, I'd like to know where people might be able to find your book.
you can, if your bookstore doesn't have it, they can order it. You can get it on Amazon has it. You can get an electronic, hard copy, soft copy. You can get it on, what's the book company you get? Yeah, Nook. You can get it on Nook and stuff like that. Is it on Audible? Audible? No, it's not Audiobook. So it's pretty well distributed. It's rated 5-star, believe it or not. By me.
That's great.
Oh, the next business I'm going to get into is the publishing business, incidentally. It is a racket.
That's great.
Because you never see the money. The publishers see the money. You don't see the money. All of the proceeds we get go into a foundation, so we don't get anything out of it. That's what I do.
Well, Bob, first we want to thank you so much for coming out here and talking to us.
We want to thank everybody for coming, and especially for our two speakers. Bob, that was awesome. It was really a great presentation. And Mark, also, I know the product will be terrific. There you are. For everyone who's an entrepreneur, who started a business, or who has been in the business 3 or 4 or 5 years, we encourage you to really look at this format and think about possibly presenting. It has been a tremendous help. You get all kinds of feedback from the people that are here. So if you have a business that you feel would be appropriate for this forum, please get with us. We would appreciate it. We really want to try and help the community as much as possible. And thank you to our college students and for everyone else who has come out today. We appreciate it immensely, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks.
Hey, good luck to you.